here close it. But I'd say because we need to happen on maybe 45 minutes and then we'll come back and
yeah. Apologies for that. We're back on track. So we now move into special meeting number 7 today, and we will go through this, because it is a separate meeting, we will go through the same processes as we had before. I make my apologies for that duplication, but that is the governance around these meetings. So we'll read those statements again.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think everyone in the gallery has already heard me read this for the previous meeting, but all council meetings are filmed with video and audio being recorded. Video recording is focused upon the councillors and staff, while audio from the entire room is captured. So by speaking during question time or at any time, you consent to your voice and any comments you make being recorded. The entire recording will be live streamed on council's YouTube channel and will also be made available on the same YouTube channel after the meeting. This is to improve access and transparency of council decision making to our community. Thank you.
And we'll stand for the acknowledgement.
The Alpine Shire Council acknowledges the traditional owners of the land we are now on. We also acknowledge those people who have contributed to the rich fabric of our community and strive to make wise decisions that will improve the quality of life for all.
Thank you. Declarations by councillors of conflicts of interest. Neil, apologies once again, Councillor Forsyth and Councillor Pearce. Presentation of reports by officers. Director of Corporate Performance, Trevor Britton. Draft Annual Budget 2016-17 submissions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think we'll commence with the hearing of all people speaking to their presentations or to their submissions. Was that the process that we'd agreed to? Or
yes.
Yep.
Yes,
okay,
correct.
So first up was Mr. Ian Howley.
On the map as well. Yep. I can just circulate those photos for information. Yep. Okay. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this issue, the extension of a footpath in Simmons Creek Road in Toowoomba South. I think this project is urgently needed. I understand there's been submissions and petitions in the past about extending the footpath up Simmons Creek Road. So why now? Why do we raise it again? Well, there's been an influx of young families in recent years. So there are more prams, bikes, school children, pedestrians using the road. And a particular issue along the road where there's no existing footpath. At the moment there's a footpath that goes about 800 metres from the highway up to just past that junction there. And Simmons Creek Road of course goes for about 3 kilometres all the way up to the edge of the bush. What I want to talk about particularly is from the end of the existing footpath, an 800 metre section which is about there. That section, and I'm circulating some photos there, most of those photos are of this section, and you can see that, well, I hope you can see, that there's some very narrow shoulders on the road, there's no footpath, and some of the shoulders drop off virtually on the edge of the bitumen. Photos 1 and 2 show that. Photo 4 in particular really represents what I'm talking about here, where there's a road with limited shoulders, and you can see if you're walking to school with someone pushing a pram, child in a carrier, you've got the family dog on board and a car comes around the corner or over the hill, So there's a couple of corners as well as coming over a hill, so a short sight distance. You can run into a pretty dangerous situation. And the worst of the corners actually has no shoulders on the road, there's nowhere to go. And in the other sections, the shoulders actually slope away, so if you push a pram to the edge, you tip the pram over. I actually walk along this road 4 or 5 times a week, and I've literally had to jump off the road a couple of times because cars have come along speeding along the road. I've been an early morning walker, jogger for the last 45 years, so I've travelled a lot of roads and a lot of footpaths, and in many locations. And that 800 metre section I regard as one of the more dangerous that I've regularly used. There are other sections of higher risk, a couple, 2 or 3 spots further up Simmons Creek Road past the winery. The major areas are in that 800 metre section because there's a lot of houses there. So I don't know what what the decision criteria council uses to prioritise projects, but I've got a background in risk assessments which we use to prioritise projects. In terms of risk to life, I regard that section as very, very high, probably second to the junction there that I know the council is dealing with, the crossing of the highway. But certainly if you had a risk register for council of all the issues, I reckon they'd go close to number 1 and 2, in my view. So what I'm suggesting is that 800 metre section perhaps be a stage 1 and perhaps a high rating on the council's forward look program. Another section coming up to around the winery, which is 2200 metres, perhaps stage 2, rated medium. Beyond that, there's 2 or 3 in a bit short sections that are a little bit dangerous, so they might be rated to medium or low. I haven't consulted other people in the street, in the road about my staging ideas. I have spoken actually to a lot of young people there, and I've got a lot of strong support for putting this forward as a priority for council. So I'd like to, I'd be happy to talk to council officers to talk about the details. I know there's some tricky bits in the construction of that footpath, but certainly not insurmountable, and would advocate that be a very high priority for council. Thank you.
Councillor Owen.
Ian, how are you this evening?
Good, thanks, mate.
Thank you for bringing this to us. So, if council could get that first section done, if this is staged over a couple of years, that is, as long as the project started, is what you're concerned about, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're concerned that nothing's been done in the past.
800 metres.
Yeah, and we need to start doing something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you've highlighted, you think, in your opinion, first, the 800 metre section needs, sorry, the 800 metre section, if you just highlight that section for us.
About here.
Right.
You see a couple of bends in the road.
Yeah, and where was that tree that fell over last week? That's just back there, wasn't it?
The existing path.
No, yeah, existing. Yes, there, was it? Just past two of other cottages.
Yeah.
Right. There's not much footpath there, is there?
Beyond there, there's nothing. There's no footpath.
It's just the roadside verge.
It's just the road. Yeah. And very narrow shoulders.
There's a footpath past that intersection. There's a bridge there. There's a footpath past that intersection.
Just past that intersection,
Yeah,
about
goes
that blue dot, just
100
across
metres or so with the bridge.
where the creek is, just past the bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So from there on.
Yeah.
May I ask a question too?
Just a moment.
Councillor Boland.
Sorry, Ian. I remember walking that road when we did the first little bit some time ago. They're very narrow shoulders, and I believe some of those shoulders that people who own the houses come really close to the road. Is that correct?
That's correct. I've actually looked at the title of that first house, which is very close to the road, and my understanding is that the actual buildings are on the road reserve. That's the problem. So probably needs a survey check to see where the road reserve alignment is.
Yeah, because it's not a simple footpath. That's why I remember we stopped where we did, because the rest wasn't going to be a simple footpath. It was going to be a fairly engineering job to try and get the footpath in.
Yeah. It's a little bit tricky, but
Yeah.
I've got a long background in construction work, so knock that over easily. Cost a few dollars.
As long as you're not imposing on someone else's land is what
No,
I'm saying.
well, we need to check, but from my understanding and the work I've done, I don't think there's a major issue with it.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Farrell?
I thank you very much for bringing your suggestion to us. I would totally agree. I think the road is a very, very awkward road for pedestrians currently as it is. I'd like to, do you mind if I ask Charlie a rough question about the costs involved in this and how flexible is our budget? And if we do a first stage, what are the vague costs of that? And could we do it in a 3-stage project? Thanks, Charlie. Sorry.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. There's a few questions in there. I don't have...
Just consult with Mr. Howley, he's already done the homework for you.
Mr. Howley had one in place. I don't have
No, I
one.
haven't.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yes.
Mr. Hawley raised how we prioritise projects, and we do have this product called our Ignite product, which, if time allowed, we could have put up on the screen, but effectively it prioritises every single project across the Shire. I'm just going to have a look and see how many, just going to open it up now, sorry, to see how many footpath projects we have in there, and it should have your particular project in there. Just waiting for it to load up. And we have every project phased from prior to 2022, 2020 to 2024, 2025 to 2034, and so on. In relation to footpath projects, I'm going to search for them. If you can indulge me doing this on the fly. We have approximately about a bit under 100, just looking at it here, projects, and we have each segment identified, and they range from $1 million projects down to $10,000 and $15,000 projects. So I think we can give you some visibility of where, at this point in time, your particular component would stack up. But I suppose the reason I wanted to mention that was just to assure you that we have had lots of competing demands for footpath funds, and that is why we have gone to the effort of producing and prioritising every single segment that we're aware of, and the next step is to be able to give you greater visibility of what those segments look like. But Mr. Bird will be able to show you after the meeting. So I guess it's a matter for council to look at this and see whether they want to elevate your project up the prioritisation list.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian, for bringing that up today, putting that submission in. You mentioned earlier in your submission earlier before about you hadn't spoken to the rest of the residents, you spoke to some of the younger people using the footpaths. I agree with you. I think this path is something that is needed somewhere along the way. Certainly there's some tricky things that can be overcome. Land acquisition or land boundaries, are one of the difficult ones to get through. What I would suggest is, if it doesn't get into this year's coming budget, whether it's a scope or whether it's built, is to garner some support from the rest of the residents and bring that to council. Yep, that'll add to it. Because the idea is to try and get things in the pipeline and get it up the chain.
And Mr. Mayor, can I add the highest priority project in the pipeline is the Pebble Beach track extension out to Dams Road.
Which
Or one of
the
the highest.
community has
Yeah.
been-
Thanks, Mr. Howley, for your submission. If you, have you got your photographs back, sir? Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, Barb Pyle is up next, if we're ready for Barb.
Thanks, Barb.
I've got a few photos of the building that we're talking about tonight. Thanks very much for inviting me along. I'm the president of the Kiewa Valley Historical Society, and we work out of one of the council's buildings, and we are very appreciative of what the council does for us. Just a little aside, Kiewa Valley Historical Society has just won a national award from Museums Australia for our first people of the Kiewa Valley and High Plains exhibition for a permanent exhibition under $20,000, which cost us about $500, you'll be pleased to know, which was a prestigious national award. So for a little museum like ours, that's very, very important. The Historical Society has been operating since 1966, and since we started we've gathered quite a collection of significant artefacts which are significant to the Kiewa Valley. Our major problem is suitable storage. At present, the conditions, as you can see from those photos, under which we're storing really special stuff is far from ideal. And as the current custodians of the collection, we aim to remedy the situation to the best of our ability, but we can't do it alone. As you will have read in our letter to you, we have lots of ideas and a grand plan, but really this first step to create a suitable storage space is probably our highest priority. At present, our storage space is at the rear of the radio station and is really not suitable for what we're using it for in any stretch of the imagination. It's damp and cold in winter and hot and dusty in summer. We feel that if the area was lined and insulated, it would be much more suited to the storage of precious artefacts. We've had a rust estimation done of the cost of this work, and it was found that it would be well over $100,000 to do it properly and to get the kind of result that we feel we need. As the collection is already quite fragile, we really need to do something sooner rather than later. And we're talking about a sizeable community asset which is irreplaceable and has the possibility of another tourism product if managed correctly. We were very disappointed that the decision not to include the library in our space didn't go with the community. I know that the council was probably on our side, but we could have had a wonderful space there, and with a few other partners, such as the library people and the national parks, could have been a very special space, and it still can be. I think the information part is very important to the community. I still think that has quite an important part of tourism in Mount Beauty, and I think that we add to that space, and we try to do the highest quality exhibitions that we can given our conditions, but the important part is how we store this wonderful collection. And yes, the storage facilities at this point in time are less than best practice. And through Ashen, that's another wonderful thing that's happened to us since I've been the president. Ashen's a great network, and I think that through Ashen, the offering of a history component to our tourism offering is much improved, and I think that this is getting to be a more popular type of tourism offering all the time. But at this point, we need your support and financial help. We can't go it alone. And that's about all. I mean, I could go on and on, but I think you get the point that if we could be somewhere on your list sooner rather than later. We did enjoy your reply to our letter, and in putting us on the 2017 to 2024 list, and then for something bigger and better from 2024 to 2032. And I was very disappointed because I mightn't be here to see that. So there you go. That's what we need help.
Thank you, Barb, for your submission. So I'll just ask the councillors if they have some questions for you.
Okay.
So you still sharing the space with Uniting Community Care?
No, that was all sorted out. That was well done by one of our members. No, the Anglicare have always sorted
Anglicare,
out.
sorry.
We share a space with the music festival.
Right.
Not sure for how much longer. We don't know what to wish for in that regard, so whether the music festival keeps going or it doesn't.
So-
But we would line the whole of the area where the music festival.
So Barb, if you had a couple of standalone containers that were air conditioned or whatever it was, because that's probably an easy fix. Would that be if they had the appropriate stuff inside them, or what? More to the point, what is the volume of space that you're actually looking for?
I
Is it
think
as big as
this-
this room, or?
Well, the space that we've got isn't too bad, but it's the type of space we've got, Peter. We have condensation problem in the winter.
Yeah.
If you saw the windows are
Yeah.
cracked, and it's just an unsuitable space. That space would be fine if it were lined and to stop the dust. And we can always go a little bigger and better, but what we've got is what we've got. But if we could improve what we've got, I wouldn't like to have to deal with storage off the site. We're very lucky that it's all there together.
Yeah.
Our exhibition area, our workroom and our storage is all on the one site, and that's very convenient.
So does the space need to be as large as this chamber?
Yeah, it's roughly as large as this one, yeah. Behind the radio station.
Yeah.
And, but it's just got an extremely high ceiling.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to manage the temperature and the dust factor. And next door you've got your archive area, and I think you did the same with that. You lined it and created quite a good, quality storage area for archives. Well, that's all we're asking, something similar. Put in a false roof, line the walls, a bit of insulation. But we realise that these things cost money, and if we cut out the natural lighting, we would probably need lighting and maybe an air conditioner.
I'm getting a whack from step-grandmother as I sit here.
Thank you, yeah, give him a whack for a minute.
I don't know how many times I had to sit around the old one down at the caravan park while she was still paddling around his side.
Well, you can see we're a lot better off than those days, but your grandmother hasn't been here for a long time.
Showing how old I am.
Oh, it's a great collection.
Yep.
It'd be a terrible shame for it not to be looked after,
That would.
according to, the way it should be looked after. And there's certainly the will there to manage it and look after it. Very, very keen people, but we don't have any money, like every other person, that comes here. We need your help to, and it's your building, so we can't really do it without your permission anyway. But we need your money as well, that's it.
Thanks, Barb. Thanks, Barb, for presenting that.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
But hang on, I have a few questions.
Oh,
He gets to say whether you go or not.
No, all right. I'm just trying to do the right thing here, mate.
sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Barb, for doing that, and congratulations on the award as well.
It's wonderful,
Good.
isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
fantastic.
I had a few things. So it's a council asset building, which is, and you raised the point about what they did next door. And I think that's a valid point. I know in the submission I think it's at 150,000 or something like that. I think it might be worth Charlie Bird and maybe the CEO coming over to have a chat with you about some of that in regards to that whole area, in regards to the VIC and what kind of relationships of all that how that could work.
There'll be a whole 3 feet deep for Charlie and Dave. They have been a few times. They know. It's,
Yeah.
You know exactly what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, we do.
Yes. I'm just
It's just what we do about it and how we manage the funding.
Yeah. So I would like to see whether we could have a different assessment of how much the cost of that was, because
We might be miles out.
Yeah.
It's always better to
that'd be good
ask.
maybe to have a look at that. But just to have a look at some other ideas in that area that maybe, because it is a council building, how we can help, how council can help the Kiewa Valley Historical Society and how they might be able to help the Shire, that sort of stuff, in some sort of relationship there. And then the other one I would say, no, I think that they're the 2 things I have to say. Actually, the congratulations and the next door, and that's it. Was there anything else?
Yes,
I had another thing, but I can't remember what it was.
have a think about it, or Councillor Farrell ask some questions.
Barb, congratulations too. I had a lovely day when we got the awards, all the Aboriginal artefacts there too. It was fantastic. Is there any chance of sort of like having a fundraising, like, I don't know whether this is a possibility of having the council meet some of the money, or would you want the money to come entirely from the council?
Well,
No?
I can't think of any way to make that sort of money.
I don't know, it's a lot, it's an extraordinary amount of money, I understand that.
And I mean,
Yeah. Yes.
It's very, very hard for historical
Mm.
societies to, I mean, we
To make any
move
money.
from grant to grant, and
Yes.
we've got 40 members. Well, that's virtually, you know, we don't have any income, so to
No,
speak.
no, yeah.
And we do run things and we do sell products and things, but it's very minuscule
Mm.
type of, and I'm not sure, you know, whether other museums do. If you ever hear of an idea of making money, I'd be very interested.
Are there any museum grants? I know you've...
Oh yes, we get
there's-
those.
You've
But they're
already
for,
had all those.
you know,
Yep.
that's
For many
that's
little
really
things.
for doing, you know, the things that we already do, like the conservation. You know, we got a quote the other day for 3 beautiful maps that we've got given from a farming family, $8,000. Well, that's, you know, unless we get a history grant from the Royal Historical Society or someone like that, we've got no hope of doing that.
No, it's a lot of money. Yeah.
It is a lot of money, and that's the type of thing we're doing. But you are talking about precious objects.
Because you've got large carts in there too, haven't you? You've got
Yes,
some,
yeah, we've got a beautiful, got the cart that worked on the Bright Gap
Mm.
in 1898 or whatever it was. Yeah, no, we've got some good stuff. We've got the Helford truck, the 1923 Helford truck, which is, I mean, maybe we could sell that.
Well, thank
We've
you,
been
Barb.
told it's worth
Yeah.
$100,000,
Oh.
so we think, you know, but you know, lots of good things, but I'm not sure how we would make that kind of money, Kate.
No, it's sorry, I didn't want to put that impost on you, but
No,
yeah.
no,
Thanks.
it's
It's very, very hard to. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you. Any further questions, Barb? I'm just conscious of the time a little bit. Thanks, Barb, for your contribution.
Thanks very much.
Mr Mayor, we have Peter Hopper up next.
Peter.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am here representing the Bright Historical Society, and I follow on from Barb and you know, acknowledge the comments that she made. They equally apply to us. What our submission is about is a little less than what Barb's asking for, but we've been applying through community grants over a number of years for various projects that we've done in cooperation with ourselves, putting efforts in kind in terms of refurbishing our, particularly our railway carriages, which are very old and very precious, but deteriorate in the weather as they do. And in addition to that, there's a lot of other maintenance that we have within the grounds of the station, which is the museum here in Bright, and also now we're the custodians, if you like, of the State Battery. And so what our submission is about is to look for a small grant per annum in order to assist us with the ongoing maintenance. For instance, at the moment we have the old jail from the police station and the old police station as part of the fabric of the museum, and we're currently looking at plumbing for spouting because some of the work's rotting because the spouting's rotting, and so we have these sorts of ongoing things. The issue comes back to similar to what Barb was presenting. We don't raise a lot of money. We do have sales. I run a market at each of our Rotary markets each year, and we raise some funds from that. We have some sales, we have our entrance fees, and we have other functions like a raffle and things like that. But the money that we raise is fairly minuscule, and we find that the majority of our money needs to then be used for the maintenance of the fabric of the building and the carriages and things, whereas we would like to be able to spend more in terms of looking after the precious objects that we also have at the museum. So what we're asking for is a total of about $4,500, $2,500 for the railway station and $1,800 to look after the state battery. And that is in terms of being able to, without looking for submissions, to be able to get in plumbers and things that we need in order to do this ongoing maintenance work. We do a lot of maintenance ourselves, of course, in terms of the mowing of the grass and the garden and all that sort of stuff, but it's the sort of things that we can't do without the services of tradespeople, and that costs a lot of money. So that's the submission. Thank you for this.
Thanks, Peter. I'll just ask councillors if there's some questions.
Yes, please.
Councillor Wallace.
Peter, thanks for that. Who owns the site?
We lease it, and it's
From?
under the Rail Trail Authority. The lease is with council and the Rail Trail Authority. And the state battery, we're currently in negotiations with regard to leasing that, and we're in negotiations with council about that. I'm not sure who actually owns that. Is it a council property?
No, council's committee of management.
Community of management.
And the other question I just wanted to ask, instead of having a per annum allowance, which
Yeah.
is obviously, as you can see, that Mount Beauty and Myrtleford would probably jump up and down and say, oh, we want that.
It's got Harrypool as well.
Oh, Harrypool, there you go, so that's even worse.
And the RSL as well.
Oh, yeah. So I wonder if there's a project that you could put forward that we could look at.
We do. We do each year.
Yeah.
And that's the point that we're making, is that we put through projects each year. And we've had a number over the last few years, like going back since I've been involved with the Society of about 2010. We did a major refurbishment of our main room. We acquired a Chinese collection of artefacts that we then got display cases for, which the submission helped us to purchase those display cases. And we sanded the floors and painted the main room, etc., and set that up. That was in 2011, 2012. The following year, one of the railway carriages, again a submission to council, we got money to paint the carriage and refurbish that. Second carriage, the red carriage, we've done as well. Now we're looking at the gold carriage. So what I'm saying is that each year we've been putting in submissions, and it's been very generous. We wouldn't have been able to do it without it, the grants that we've received. But we also find that we spend a lot of our money that we raise, which is something like 10,000 or 15,000 a year. The majority of that goes on the other maintenance of things like, as I said, we've got the old jail on our site, and some of the work's rotting, and it's because the spouting's rotting, so we've got to repair that.
Yeah. I think you can see where I'm coming from.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as soon as we give it, say, to the right,
Yeah.
we're going to be up for Harrypool,
Yeah.
say, well, and Mount Beauty
Yep.
here.
Yep.
So something we've got to look at very carefully, how far we go with those
Yeah, I understand.
ongoing grants.
Yep.
Whereas I think if you actually had said to us that you wanted to repair the gold carriage, it's going to
Yep.
cost $50,000 or
Yep.
whatever. Not that much, but we could look at it
Yep.
in that aspect. But that's just my point of view. So
Yeah,
thanks,
yeah.
Peter.
Thank you.
May I say something?
Yes.
Thank you very, very much, Peter, for coming along. Look, I understand. I wish that we could give some money, as Jan has said, to Harrietfield, to Mount Beauty, to all the museums, and I'm very passionate about retaining all those, and it's very, very important that we keep our historical for future generations. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that the carriage is subsiding. Could you sort of work out in a project?
That's another project that we've got in train at the moment.
Okay.
In order to maintain them, we need to refurbish the railway lines, and we're looking at that. Another big project that we got on hand, like Barbara said, in regard to storage, is we're custodians at the Good Shed, and we're looking at how we might refurbish that in order to have it as a storage area and a work area, because we don't have an adequate work area. But they're all huge, big projects.
Yes, I can imagine it cost a lot of money.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you very much for coming on, and I appreciate what you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I apologise for Malcolm Miller. He would have been here. He was the person who did the presentation, put in the submission, but he's overseas at the moment. So
No worries,
stay
Peter.
here.
That's it. No worries. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor. Sorry. Mr. Barry.
Thank you for the promotion,
Didn't want
Mr.
a
Mayor.
promotion.
Certainly when we've discussed this internally, myself and the Director of Sustainable Development have said that we think we should probably engage more with Ashen around the future pipeline of projects for culture within our Shire. So if you look at things like recreation reserves, we have a well-developed strategy. Those rec reserves, those footy and netball clubs know exactly how much money they're getting every year. Likewise across assets that we run directly, things like swimming pools and whatever else. I think we have quite a gap there with some of our cultural assets where we're not directly involved, where we could probably work with Ashen to be able to better say, here are the demands of the real world demands. So rather than trying to approach it in a piecemeal type fashion, let's approach it in a holistic fashion and say to council over the next 10 years, if council wants to support these facilities, here is the level of financial commitment that is real to be able to get to a good end point, rather than trying to underplay projects where we're just treading water. At least then that way council can make a really serious decision about what level they want to commit to culture at, heritage at. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have one more submitted.
Yep, finally, Mr. Mayor, we have Mr. Darryl Farmer to talk to his Dunstan's Track submission.
Hello and thank you for hearing my submission on behalf of the residents of Dunstan Track. Dunstan Track is a council managed road that crosses German Creek and continues for approximately 500 metres. There are 3 residential properties that access through German Creek forward on a daily basis, and this is how we access it the majority of the times. There are also 2 other landowners who access their properties for farming purposes, along with 3 adjoining neighbours who access the ford to maintain their water supply. There are also numerous utility companies who access the area through the forward. So that shows what we go through. It also shows the marker. The marker shows it's only less than 20 centimetres deep. But as the creek continually gets washed away, the marker does need to get moved down. Which doesn't occur. There's an old bridge which is on the right hand side, which is not built by council, and council do not maintain it even though it was constructed on council land. This can only be accessed with small to medium sized vehicles, preventing emergency services from utilising it. 2 major flooding events occurred in September and December of 2010, along with 2 moderate flooding events that occurred in February 2011 and February 2012. These flooding events have damaged the forward crossing in Dunstan Track. So we'll go, this photo was taken in 2012 of January. A 14-year-old girl suffered spinal injuries and a fractured vertebrae in her neck, and an ambulance was called. Once the ambulance arrived, the paramedic called for another ambulance to park on the opposite side of the ford because he was not sure if he'd be able to make it back. At that point of the year, he was lucky to be able to because the level of the water was very low. You can see him going there, it's very low. It's quite steep coming up the other side, and you might be able to see at the top, that's where the other ambulance is parked. So that's the other ambulance that was parked up the top. So that shows the water, and the marker again showing that the marker shows there's no water in it, but obviously there is. And that clearly shows the old bridge, which is not maintained and is getting quite in disrepair from the flooding events. So that shows when the properties were developed in 1983 with planning permits from council, and shows the properties as such and the creek. It's probably a omission back then that the planning approval did not also ensure that there was adequate access, and we agree on that. So we've now got a video of the 2010 floods, hopefully. So that shows the level of the water up to the bridge and the current going through it. Again, it shows it only on 70 centimetres, but it's probably 1.5 metres. That was in the morning. By the afternoon, it had actually gone over the top of the bridge. I'm there accessing the bridge, assessing it to see if it's available for my 3 children and my wife to walk across. We knew the flood was coming. We parked our car on the other side, so we had to walk across there to get access to our vehicle. You can see the ford there. Obviously, any vehicle going down into that, it would be a tragedy. And as I said, later that afternoon, it actually went over the top of the bridge. It's done that on 2 occasions. So that's our emergency access. Obviously, when the river's up, not even in floods like this, ambulance can't get through. When it does get up reasonably high, fire brigade can't get through to the properties. Council has a legislative responsibility under the Road Management Act of 2004. Part 4 of this Act clearly states in regards to the management of roads. A coordinating road authority must coordinate and develop, including the carrying out of works and the installation of infrastructure, so as to ensure the safety of road users and the community. The Alpine Shire Asset Management Policy under Strategic Goals states provisions for new capital works projects where it is demonstrated that it is sustainable, viable and at needs basis is required and declared by the Shire. In this year's mayoral induction to the budget, it stated that this budget delivers one of Council's largest ever works programs of $9.4 million. Of this, over $2.7 million is for road and bridge renewal works, which will support and build community safety and well-being. Dunstan Track had previously been incorporated into the budget, budgeted for $20,000 for stage 1 of culverts to be installed into the ford. At this same meeting in July 2014, it was reflected that the phasing of the Dunstan Track project was to be in the 2015-2016 financial year. This year, the Dunstan Track renewal program was removed from the budget without consultation or notification of the residents. The residents of Dunstan Track have been in consultation with Council for over 10 years regarding the lack of emergency access to the properties. This increased after the 2010 floods, which have damaged the crossing. In the past 6 years, we have consulted and had on-site meetings with 4 council engineers and 2 council directors on numerous occasions. None of these are now employed by council. Also had meetings on site with the previous council CEO, previous mayor and a number of councillors. All have agreed that the access is not adequate. For the council to dismiss the funding in this coming year's budget without consultation with landowners is not only unprofessional but also a clear breach of the asset management policy. Appendix 2, strategic issues, where it is stated that the long-term management requires consultation with key stakeholders such as the community. The residents do not wish to have a bridge designed and constructed wider to accommodate bike riders. The residents are more concerned with being able to receive emergency services to their properties, which currently is not available throughout the year. We have been told that the funding may be considered in the quarterly budget review and may be placed in the strategic project pipeline. This project prioritises all projects over a 20-year period and beyond, and currently has 342 projects in it. We're hoping we're not number 343. The liability issue is the key question for council. The residents hope it does not take a tragedy before anything is done, because then it will be too late. So that's my submission on behalf of the residents.
Thanks, Darryl. I'll just ask councillors. Councillor Bollings.
Thanks, Darryl. Yeah, I remember this coming up some years ago. We were talking about culverts at one stage.
Yes, that's correct.
And apparently that's not allowed by NECMA, is that correct?
Apparently that's the case. CMA. Apparently they said no to council, and that's what part of the $20,000 was for. It was going to be staged, and the residents were happy for that. to go down that path, but NECMA said no. I don't know why, because less than a kilometre down upstream there's culverts that have been there for 40 years and they're still going well. But we are aware that NECMA did refuse that.
I remember that sort of being discussed at the time.
Yes, look, thank you, Darryl. I appreciate coming out because it's the first I knew of it just the other day. I wasn't familiar with the problem that you had. I really sincerely mean that I just had no idea.
Yep.
So it was good to actually see it, to visualise what was happening. I mean, I don't want to see anything happen to anybody either. I sincerely don't. That who would that would be shocking. So look, I leave it up to my colleagues to the left of me to make decisions, and to Charlie Bird and to the directors to look at this very seriously. If this is, as you said, this is an issue that has been going on for 10 years, and I think it's 10 years too long. Okay.
Yeah, thanks for coming out. Yeah.
That's my pleasure, and that's just from my opinion. I think it's 10 years too long.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out the other day when I first contacted you about it. You're out there that day, and I do appreciate it.
That's okay. That's what I'm here for.
Yeah.
I go out and about all over the place.
That's good. We're hoping that something like this is prioritised and is put besides the fact of where Dunstan Track is, where the Dunstan Track's in the Kiewa Valley, the Ovens Valley, in Wandillagong or at Myrtleford. It shouldn't come down to those facts. The facts of the matter are that it's dangerous. When the river's up, not even in flood, we can't get an ambulance in. When it's up a little bit, we can't get fire trucks in. And with the noting of the floods, quite often they're in the summer months as well. So it's not just winter. Right, thank you for...
Mr. Mayor?
Thanks, Darryl, for coming out and doing that submission. Certainly had a look a few times there and talked to some of the other residents in that spot there. My question to you is, no, not my question, is today was the first day that I've been able to find out that actually the ownership of the road from Dunstan's Track, the first part to after the bridge, is all Shire Road.
Yep.
Previously, I didn't have some of that knowledge. So that's cleared that up, and I believe we spoke about this last week with Charlie and Dave, and they've made some further investigations, and I would imagine that Charlie's going to have a chat to you after this meeting about that.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Councillor Roper.
Darryl, looking at your draft, the main sticking point here, as far as I can see, is the catchment management authority. Okay, unless we build a structure that's $200,000.
Yeah, well, I think it's been quoted between $120,000 and $150,000 for a bridge to go in.
Latest advice is 200.
Is it?
Yeah.
Right.
So, if I look at the aerial photograph, so it goes you, Thomasonis, and the next people down are the...
It goes
from you, then Eugene, Thomasoni, yep, and the next people down are...
It's Adam, and then it goes around to Dennis Maloney at the end. So
right, so Dennis, is he the one that goes out towards the north and gets onto that other road?
No, he accesses as well. You can't get out that other way.
Well, okay, so when I look at Google Maps, there's a road that goes from Adam's place out underneath the bush over there.
Yeah, no.
Righto, just listen to me. So, for argument's sake, it's going to cost just over $200,000 to put a bridge in, okay? If Harper's Lane was extended towards the bush line and then gave you access via that back route, would that be a viable alternative instead of being dicked around by, sorry, it's a technical term, being having to try and speed this process up? I can see where you're coming from. I drove the other day, I saw the axe marks in the tree, I've got a Land Cruiser wagon, it just fits across the bridge. You know, coming back Kraus on it, not much of drama. But you know, so if we're going to get you access, would access as an extension of Harper's Lane along the northern boundary, would that suit you better?
I don't think the lay of the land would allow that.
Okay, just say for argument's sake the land does work as far as access is that way.
I'd have to speak to the other residents, but I know for me personally it wouldn't suit me better to go.
So as an alternative, you're not willing to consider that as an alternative, even though if we can't find a couple $100,000 to put a bridge in and get NACMA across the line to satisfy us that, if we can do this,
But to get a track up the back
Yeah, but
and
hang on a
to
second,
maintain
you-
it would
yeah.
probably cost in the long run a lot more than putting a bridge in.
okay, so we're not still sure that we can actually get a bridge in. The point I'm trying to make is I'm trying to find an option
Yeah.
for you,
Oh,
so as
definitely.
you've got access, okay?
Yep.
So one of the issues we've got at the moment is NECMA, because NECMA say that the floods we're going to get are bigger and worse than they're ever going to be, so they want us to build it up high and then the abutments come a problem, so the bridge actually gets bigger.
Yep.
Okay? So it's about actually making the hole underneath the bridge a lot bigger than it
Yep.
currently is.
Yep.
Okay, so
I don't think being able to get past Maloney's up to Harper's Lane would be four-wheel drive only, and that wouldn't allow ambulances, especially when.
but if we did the road
So,
that way, which we have the ability to do because it's a matter of some land acquisition and pushing a road, is that going to solve your problem?
I'd have to have a look at it. You put me on the spot. I haven't thought of that option in the past. But looking at the lay of the land, I'd say no. I'd say it'd be an easy way out.
Forget some of the things
Yep.
you can see because
Yep.
it's an engineering fix.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So an engineering fix is as much as putting some geofab down and running some stuff over the top of it, and you can put a road just about anywhere these days.
Yeah, but the hill that you have to get up to access it is.
Okay, so what I'm trying to get, the
right.
point I'm trying to make across,
Yep.
Gal, is if we could
Yep.
find you an alternative way of accessing your
Yep.
land as
All-
opposed
all
to
the-
going.
yep. All that the residents want is to be able to get an ambulance in there when it's been raining. At the moment, we can't. Going up that hill, you wouldn't be able to either.
Right, so the point I'm making is, and I think I've just heard you say, if we could find you an alternative way to access your block of land
Yep.
that would be passable for an ambulance,
Yep.
you would be happy with that.
Yeah, we can get an ambulance, but that road, I know you won't be able to get an ambulance up there.
Thanks, Dale.
so-
Yep, fine, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess we've talked about this project quite a bit internally, so I can give you some informal feedback today. Obviously, relying on councillors to make an end decision, but certainly as officers, a few things. Firstly, I must apologise. We didn't remove it from the budget or anything like that. It just never made its way in there this year because, as I understood it, the matter had been resolved. Obviously, totally incorrectly understood that. Because I can go into the background behind that, but it's not really all that useful. The advice that was given to me was we were applying for National Disaster Resilience funding to get the culverts to go in there. We didn't get the money. The culverts weren't achievable. Therefore, the project wasn't proceeding. So it wasn't removed. It was just not even contemplated. Is the truth behind it. So thank you for raising it back with us. Now that you have, I think I look at the project and say, why is it taking 10 years? From probably being raised a few weeks ago. I'm trying to think when.
It got raised on the final day of submissions to the draft budget.
Yeah. That's when we noticed that it wasn't in the budget.
So from that time, we've had Will Jeremy and Rory Hazeldine and Charlie look at it.
Yep.
I've had some involvement in it last Friday. To me, I don't know what the complexity is. My recommendation to council is that we need to provide access. That the road being a limited access road beyond the creek is not appropriate. It should, if it was anywhere else, it would be a general access road. This is our preliminary advice, so we're purely making a road a limited access road based on economics, and that is not something we should be doing. We should be, some ratepayers cost more to service, others cost less. That's why, rates is not a fair system, and that's why it's a wealth distribution system or a cost distribution system. So my advice to council is the road up to the second last house should be a general access road. We're recommending that we bring this back to council at the September council meeting for a decision. There's a number of things we want to do. We want to firstly talk back with the CMA, because in that it's taken 10 years to get to this point and it's taken us 2 weeks to get the information we now have to hand, it leads me to not have confidence in our conversations with the CMA thus far. That certainly, I'm sure we may get the same answer, but we need to rehab those conversations. So that's the first thing we want to do. The second thing is we want to meet with the impacted landowners to just, we've heard from you directly, but we also want to hear from the others directly to make sure that they're happy with what we propose. The third thing is we just want to get some accurate costs on the two options that look on the table at the moment. And I guess the fourth thing is we also want to canvass whether any of the impacted residents would be willing to make any financial contribution towards the project. Now, we're not saying that that is necessary, but
that has been asked in the past, and at that time, I think 7 years or straight after the floods, excuse me, that was put to council, put to us from council, and it was stated that we weren't in the financial situation.
No, that's just to have those conversations. But either way, I mean, I guess I'm saying our recommendation to council is access to a suitable standard needs to go in there. It's part of our road network, and there should be no second-class citizens. You should be treated the same as everyone else. The final one was in relation to the planning permit. We're unable to locate a planning permit that was granted, so the advice that's come back to me is we're still looking. But at this point, it may have been the reason there was no compulsion to build a bridge was there was no permit potentially issued.
That's interesting.
And then I guess the only broader question there is, should then that have to flow back onto the ratepayers at large to pay for? But I think I can say to you, firstly, I've given you some context around how it was not considered as part of the budget. There was no conscious removal. And secondly, that absolutely come the first council meeting in September, you will have an answer one way or the other, and that our recommendation is certainly that we need to figure out a way of getting that access resolved.
Because as it was stated, there's 2.7 million in this year's budget for road and bridge renewal works. In the 2016-2017 budget, it's only for bridges only 199,000. So I know that's another year off, but when you look at the scheme of how much funding is, it's going to drop off the scale greatly with bridge network, etc. So that's the situation.
Yeah, I'm not sure I fully follow that, but
yeah, it's in the budget to say 2016, 2017. It's budgeted for bridges is 199,000 compared to this year. So,
yeah, I think that's kind of a non-related point. How that arises is we have all of our bridge renewal projects mapped out year by year, so we can project based on a yearly basis how much they cost. And sometimes you have a lot of money to spend on bridges, and sometimes you have less, depending on when they were originally built 80 or 100 years ago.
Are there any further questions or comment? Thanks, Darryl.
Thanks for hearing me.
So you consider the recommendation. That's fine. If you need to.
You might want to wait for the next 2 seconds. You might want to wait for 10 more seconds.
10 seconds. You might just ask the council if they need to suspend standing orders.
Councillors, do you need to suspend standing orders to have further discussion on this, or are we happy to?
Well, we're going to have to discuss it probably.
Yes. You want
We can suspend standing orders, but we do need to discuss the submissions confidentially.
Okay. During our break.
Now, or we can do it before our confidential meeting.
Do councillors want to take a break now and make some decisions on this, or do you want to wait a little bit further till we have our confidential meeting as well?
I'd say what you might want to do is just suggest you might suspend making a decision on this until we consider the budget item. Yeah?
I'll move that we suspend the decision on this until we have had a discussion, and we'll discuss it after our confidential meeting.
Thank you. All those in favour?
Excuse me, can we have a second?
Oh, second, yeah.
Second.
Thank you. Councillor Keeble. Okay, we'll suspend those recommendations until we have a conversation, and we'll continue on.
Can I just make a comment to the gallery on that? It's we need to discuss what you've spoken about before we make a decision, and rather than move that motion that said, whatever it said now, consider the written and verbal submissions. We can actually put it in the budget in one whole swoop if we go to say, yes, we'll do the submissions. If that makes sense to everyone.
I did explain it's going to be a little bit convoluted this evening.
Mr Mayor, can I have the challenge for the gallery will be for those people that wanted to leave. By the time you hear council's decision on this, we're probably looking at, I reckon, another good hour from now, potentially. So,
Go home and watch it. You'll let us know though, won't you?
Yes.
yes.
And it's not 5 to 11 o'clock, it's only 6:20.
We'll move on to 5.1.2, Alpine Shire Council Plan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yep, this item deals with the council plan. This is the last council plan for current council, or the last revision, I should say, of the council plan. Back in May, a month ago, council resolved to only make minor changes to the current council plan, including updating the mayoral message, updating the action plan to reflect major initiatives identified in the budget, and to update the strategic resource plan in line with the long-term financial plan that's also identified in the budget. So it's simply a matter of adopting the two recommendations. First one being that the SRP be updated, reflecting the budget, and the second one being that the council plan current revision or be revised according to the strategic resource plan.
Councillor Von Oaks. Councillor Keeble. Councillor Von Oaks.
Just very quickly, if you actually read through the plan, we've done quite a bit in the last 4 years, and it's very pleasing to see that what we wrote 4 years ago, we're still either working on or we've finished, and I congratulate the team out there for moving us along. Thank you.
Any other councillors wish to comment? Go to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. Curbside collection, curbside waste collection contract extension.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. In this item, I'm seeking a final extension to a 3-year or potential 3-year contract with JJ Richards for the provision of curbside waste collection services. The initial contract is a 1-year term. We've extended it once, and this, as I say, will be the final extension. During the last 18 months, the Manager of Facilities has been conducting an extensive facilities management review. I guess the focus on that has been the Myrtleford landfill site and how that transforms into a best practice transfer station, and that Council's already adopted the recommendation around that. There's some more work to do just in that area, looking at, in fact, this item, the waste collection and also recyclables collection, and the possibility of an in-house bid for those services going forward. So that's the last piece of work that's required to be done.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Who's been moved? Councillor Raythorns.
No.
Councillor Keeble, sorry.
I seconded.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell. Councillor Keeble?
No, just exactly what Trevor was saying, looking forward towards the time that we can get our other strategic directions up in regards to the green waste and all the other areas. And so this is a necessity until we get the next work done.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell.
No further comment, just saying, Charlie, it was Keeble and Farrell who moved the motion. Okay, thanks, Charlie.
That's all. No, I've got nothing to say, and I think Jan wants to talk about a green waste.
Any further
Sure
comment?
she does.
Yeah, I'm going to mention it, put it in the minutes. I just want to say that in my 11 years on council, you've got 2 months to get my green waste into fruition, and please, before the people get off my back. Thank you.
Go to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. This also gives us an opportunity to work in with the state plan for waste management in the bigger term.
I'd like to move that we go into closed session for our confidential report, please.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
You feel a bit lonesome down there.
Measly, how can we all know he's not?
Okay. Good, Mr. Mayor.
I don't know.
4G.
Councillors, the live recording has now commenced, and we've resumed standing orders following on from the confidential session.
Councillors, we'll go back to Article 5.1.1, the draft annual budget submissions. Can I have, I understand that there are some additions to the recommendations. Can I have a mover and a seconder for those recommendations,
So moved.
please? Councillor Van Arx,
Second.
I'll second.
Councillor Farrell, Councillor Van Arx.
I think they're self-explanatory, so happy for the staff to contact the relevant submitters. Thank you.
Councillor Farrell,
No further comment.
very good. Any further comment? All those in favour?
I have a further comment.
Oh, sorry.
I'd
Councillor
just like to thank all those people that came tonight to do their presentations, and I'm sure that they'll be happy to see some of those additions to the motions.
Thank you, and apologies to those people who I probably misrepresented in the time frame that we've had away from this desk. Well, oh, sorry, all those in favour? Carried. Item 5.2.2, adoption of the 2016-17 budget. Mover and seconder, please.
I'll move.
Mr. Mayor, will you want to present the budget report?
Yes, please.
I shall very briefly present it. I think the presentation of the budget report every year is a substantive item for council. And sorry for the distraction, Mr. Mayor. Look, for me, this budget report is significant in that it represents the second transformative budget that this council has adopted. So if we look at it purely in terms of rate increase, last year the rate increase was 2.9% and has since been verified as the third lowest in the state. This year our rates increase will be 2.3%, and after thorough investigation we believe that that will now be the lowest rate increase in the state, showing a trend of keeping rates low. There was another council which notionally had a lower increase, but I've looked at their budget and don't believe that to be the case. So a long-term trend of low rates increases. The second thing is, where are those rates going? Well, we're not running a frugal budget this year. As you can see, we have our highest capital work spend, I believe, in our history. So showing that while council is reducing the cost to ratepayers, we're also increasing the level of spend on new infrastructure. And I guess the third component is, not only are we reducing rates costs, if you look at our other fees and charges, we're not doing anything sneaky there. They are also going up at 2.5%. And last year, for example, where we have reduced a number of fees, so for example, where we reduced the price of a family pass to our outdoor pools, and that went last year from just over $300 down to $99. This year we've dropped that to $89. So where we have been reducing fees, we've been either keeping them down or keeping the trend down. So all in all, in a time of challenging times for our sector, I believe that this council is bucking that trend and being able to keep rates low, keep fees and charges low, and increase service delivery, increase service outcomes, and healthy position for the second year in a row. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Dave. I'll start again for a mover and a seconder. Councillor.
I'll move. I'll second. Doesn't matter.
Councillor Van Arx and Councillor Farrell. Councillor Van Arx.
Yes, I'd like to congratulate Trevor, Leanne and all the team on a fantastic job, and also all the staff by keeping their costs down. I mean, this is really important. We did put a big impost on the CEO to reduce charges reduce costs, which we've done quite adequately, and I think it's been fantastic without any loss of service. And I think everyone should be proud of the rate increase this year. I know there's a few out there that have gone for higher than the 2.5, and we're below even the rate capping, so congratulations to everyone involved. I do believe that in this budget, as the draft budget, there is no library expenses, which will be now added after our submissions tonight. It'll be interesting to see how the final budget will come out when we adopt all the submissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farrell.
I'd also like to thank Trevor and Leanne and the team for working on the budget. It's a great outcome. I believe also that ratepayers will be happy with our low rate increase, which is something that I believe we all want. And thank you yet again. I'll reiterate what Councillor Donald has said. A good job by all.
Thank you. Any other comment on the adoption of the 16-17 budget? Take it to the vote. All those in favour? Carried. As there are no other items, there's no general business at the special meeting.
They were moved and seconded.
Thank you. No further business for the meeting. As a result of the confidential meeting that we had earlier, there will be a public release of that recommendation.
Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to talk to it now for the purpose of the people that are watching at home on YouTube.
That'd be good.
As you are aware, Council moved the motion at the May Council meeting to seek additional savings, similar to that motion that you moved just over 2 years ago. I provided a further report back to Council, and at this Council meeting you have moved a motion acknowledging that you are concerned about the significant difference between private enterprise wages and council wages and the burden that that is putting on our community. Therefore, you have again directed me, as you did 2 years ago, this time not to save $1.5 million, but to save $600,000 on the 2016-17 employee costs. Unlike the last time where you gave me, I think, about 6 months to achieve that, this time you have given me 3 years. You again want me to maintain service outcomes, and I guess what I've noticed that's different about this motion is you've asked me to negotiate a 3-year wage freeze to demonstrate staff restraint and acknowledgement of the circumstances where I think it's widely acknowledged that we are paid above, well above private enterprise levels. So that's somewhat distinct from your previous motion. Failing me achieving that, you've instructed me to, I guess, achieve a more ambitious target of reviewing a comprehensive range of functions to achieve a saving of $2 million by outsourcing or restructuring major parts of the organisation. And as you did with the previous motion, you've directed me to allocate the savings in the long-term financial plan to ensure our financial sustainability, to minimise future rate rises, and to build, maintain and enhance community services. So again, in summary, you've given me, in conjunction with the staff, to choose between one of two options, one of which is a $600,000 saving plus a wage freeze, the other is a $200,000 saving, with the latter being more focused on outsourcing and substantial performance. Sorry, $2 million, with that latter one being more focused on outsourcing and more significant restructuring. And as always, you want the savings back in ratepayers' pockets, underpinning our sustainability or doing more things out in our community. Hopefully that adequately captures Council's intent in this regard.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Barry. I think we have confidence in you obtaining those results on behalf of our ratepayers. That's an important issue to councillors here, that we keep our costs down. And it is going to be a reasonable task for you, we understand that, but you have our confidence in being able to achieve that, and I'm sure that the staff will work with you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll declare the meeting closed.